Is gentle parenting biblical? What do you think? It sounds like it should be. We're going to be talking about different parenting verses in the Bible in this video and see if we can understand if gentle parenting is actually biblical. So we have to understand a little bit about gentle parenting. This is a newer movement. It started back in 2007. The phrase gentle parenting was coined. Later, a book was written in 2015, which was called Gentle Parenting. Since then, the movement has been a little bit criticized. In fact, I would say a lot of it criticized. Many people have said, whoa, that doesn't work, and they've left it. And they've recognized that there have been some really severe behavioral problems that have resulted from the gentle parenting approach. So I suppose we could say, by your fruits you shall know them, that maybe we don't even have to look at the Bible verses to know for sure, because the fruits have kind of proven otherwise. I have a video called When Gentle Parenting Fails, another one called When Gentle Parenting Goes Wrong. There's a lot of videos about that. But let's just go ahead and look into the scriptures and what it says about parenting. Now, this first verse maybe makes a little bit of a case for gentle parenting, actually. So this is in 1 Colossians 3:21, and it says, "Fathers, provoke not your children to anger, lest they be discouraged." And I think the gentle parents really are trying to harness that feeling. Like, I want my children to like me. I want them to like my parenting. I want them to learn and grow in a safe and comfortable and gentle way. I don't want them to feel like being parented was incredibly hard or somehow really difficult for them. The problem is that growing up is always hard. And so to try to keep that from them is basically to teach them a lie and to make them probably fragile for the future so that they can't handle problems, which is super unfortunate for them. But the other thing too is in this it says, lest they be discouraged, and try not to provoke them to anger. But in the gentle parenting approach, you're coddling a lot of their emotions. It's a lot of the, well, why are you feeling that? Well, what are you feeling? Well, what do you think you should do about it? And I'll just get away from you so that you can have your feeling. That approach leads to more and more anger. So I suppose we could make the case that gentle parenting is not biblical also, according to this verse, depending on how you want to see the interactions. But if you are feeding your child's emotions a lot and coddling those, and it leads them to be more and more angry, then possibly your parenting approach is actually provoking them to anger. Now, I know a lot of people would say that the word provoke usually means you're having a power struggle, but if you're passively just like getting them into this emotional whirlpool all of the time, that could be almost like power struggling with them, because they're learning to handle their problems in a way that's not going to do it. It's not going to be effective, and they're going to end up really frustrated. So probably the most popular Bible verse, the one that we hear the most about parenting, is in Proverbs 13:24, when it says, "He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes." So this is saying that if you don't correct the children, then you must hate your child. At least that's how a lot of people interpret it. Now, I have a lot of videos on this channel, like a lot, but there are multiple about spanking and about the Bible and what does the Bible say about spanking. And I will say this, that I do not agree with spanking. I do not think this verse actually says to spank. I think it says something completely different, but I brought it up because that's a Bible verse that a lot of people recognize as, wow, if I don't correct my child, I hate them. I'm hurting them. And I need to make sure that they have the tools that they need for life. We could talk about what the rod represents. I think a lot of people think it represents corporal punishment. I do not think it does if you look at it in context with shepherds. So see some of my other videos for that. So let's look at some more in Proverbs. What about Proverbs 22:6? It says, "Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." Super powerful. And I've seen that to be the case, that there have been children who they're having behavioral problems. The parents still keep the training constant. They work with the child again and again. And the child maybe makes some bad decisions in life for a bit. And then all of a sudden they come back around and go, you know what, actually, I don't think I want to be that way anymore. That didn't help me. So training up the child, that means teaching them. That means deliberately preparing them. That also means correcting them, because that's a big part of training. Now, the gentle parenting approach is not a big fan of consequences and teaching cause and effect and having a child accept consequences. It's really been portrayed, especially on social media, as belittling, demeaning, punitive to the child, when in reality, the child does need to learn cause and effect and be able to accept their consequences in order to learn from them. That's how a person learns self-mastery, is by recognizing they did something a way that wasn't effective and then practicing fixing it, as well as, accepting whatever consequences come from that. All right, let's look in the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 6, verses 6 through 7 says, I'm going to summarize some of this, kind of hook it together shorter. It says, "And these words shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children." So, talking about training the children's heart here, that they need to understand the truth. Are all of those emotions and everything true? I mean, you might feel them, but did you know you had a split second where you could make a thought before you had the emotion? You had the feeling, then a split second thought, then the emotion. Was the thought that you entertained an actually true thought? Like, oh, my mom hates me. Is that true? Probably not. My mom's disappointed in me could be true. I feel sorry that I made the wrong choice. That could be true. So now what should I do to fix it? Should be the next thought that comes before we get into the emotion part. If we can train our children to stop and to think and question the feeling, make a plan for what to do with it, instead of just to dive into all the emotions and then just vomit them out all of the time, which is what the gentle parenting approach does, then we can actually empower them to have a change of heart. Their whole character can change because of that. Just that simple thing to learn how to tell themselves, no, I need to stop. That's a very self-governed thing to do. So there's another really famous Bible verse. I can't remember the reference for it right now, but it just popped into my head, which is that we need to raise our children by rod and staff. So staff is what shepherds would use to guide the sheep. So they would kind of just gently push them along where they needed to go. Now, that could seem like a case for gentle parenting, but what about the rod? So the rod is what a shepherd would use, never on the sheep, but on the wolves, to beat the wolves away. So all of these conversations about parenting in the Bible about rod probably mean beating away the influences that would not be good for the child. So what is not good for the child? Entitlement and selfishness, aggressiveness, being controlling of other people. These are not good for them for their future. We should be beating those things away with the rod. Not beating the child, but just saying, nope, that's not okay. Nope, that's not okay. Here's how we handle it. We shouldn't just be sitting there taking this bad behavior and teaching them that they can walk all over anyone emotionally. This is going to hurt them in their careers, in their future families. There's going to be a lot of entitlement unless we start to rein this in. So I, for one, am really glad that the gentle parenting movement is on its way out. I hope that people will find teaching self-government useful. The skills and principles that are taught here are biblical. This is a principled approach to parenting that you can actually say, this does match the things that I read in my Bible, and it can help us all feel free and liberated from all of that emotional bondage that is so prevalent in the gentle parenting approach. So if you would like to learn more about teaching self-government, there is a full-length class that goes into some details about some of the skills and principles of self-government. That class is called The Not-So-Known Secret for Parenting Success. Click on the link to that next. I'll see you there.